Our This is our project for our discrete subject. So this project will be tackling three main lessons, which are vectors, matrix, and linear transformations, and each will have their own functionality that will be showcased. So let's start first with our matrix. So in the matrix page, there will be three sub-pages, which are resources, exercises, and interact. So on the resources page, it contains the content of what matrices are. And so for our exercises, this will have three more sub-pages, which are addition, subtraction, and multiplication. And these three, and so in the exercises page, it will have three more sub-pages, which are addition, subtraction, and multiplication. And so for the exercises, it will just be a quiz type, and according to what type of quiz you want to get or want to take, it could be either addition, subtraction, or multiplication, in which it will give you random numbers on both matrices, and it will only cover a 2 by 2 matrix. So for example, in addition here, we have an addition of two different matrices with random numbers. And so if I answer something randomly, it should show the correct answer and your answer, and then it can determine whether your answer was incorrect or not. And so this is true to every subpage or every, let's say, operation. And so the numbers are also randomized. So let's say here, if I reload the page, it will just create or randomize or generate random numbers. And for the interact page, this will be a let's say a interaction page where you can choose two matrices together, and you can select an operation just like so, and then you can input any number, and it will solve that specific problem. For example, you can also use other operations, and it will work like so. So that's it for our matrices page. Next up, we have our vectors page, and this time it will only have two sub pages, which are resources and interact, and it's same again like matrices. It will be the resources will just be about what vectors are, and for our interact page, it's going to be like Desmos, Desmos.com or DesmosGraph.com, where you can just input your numbers, or I mean, in this context, you can input the x and y origin, and then the x and y destination. And for example, if you want to create a vector line from 0, 0 going towards, for example, 3, 3, if we do this, it will just create a vector line. And so if we want to create a specific line where we can create a line from let's say 4, 2 towards 4, 8, for example. So 4, 2, and 4, 8. If we input those numbers, as you can see, we can create a vertical line. And so if you want to add more lines, which is also possible, we can do something like this. So 4, 8, let's say we want to create a horizontal line from here toward here, and it's going to be 11, 8. And so if you do that, you can see you just created a vertical line and horizontal line, which are connected to each other. And so you can also span around and zoom in and zoom out of the Cartesian plane. And so that's it for the vector part of the project. And so lastly, we have the linear transformation, which also has two sub-pages, the resources and interact. And so a linear transformation is just it's just a vector. I mean, it's just a Cartesian plane with vectors, in which we can transform those vectors using a matrix. And so, for example, we have we have 5 vectors over here, and first we have our 1 1 vector, you know, our 1 0, our 0 1, -1, stuff like that. And so we have our input matrix here, in which we can manipulate this Cartesian plane, and we can skew and rotate and mirror or flip our vectors. Like for example, if we increase this number over here, our vectors will scale up twice, just like so. And you can see that the grids have also meaning, which means the blue line is the transformed grid, while the gray lines are the original scale or original grid. So for example, our 1 1 matrix here was supposed to be, I mean, not 1 1 matrix, our 1 1 vector was supposed to be here, but after we scaled up the x value twice, you can see it's now around 1, I mean 2 and 1. So if you also want to scale the y twice, you can also do that, like so. And if you want to just scale both, you can do that. And so there another rule of the linear transformation is, if we increase this number over here, we can skew our whole Cartesian plane, and goes the same for this one, in which we can skew it on the other side. You could also play around with this input matrix, like having a combination of numbers, for example, and it will just do its own thing, which is hard to explain, but this just basically means that it manipulates our x and y values and their units. Like for example, in this part over here, this is a let's say a aggregated function of our x and y values, wherein the top part over here is equal to x, and our y down here is equal to, I mean the two numbers over here is equal to y. So anything we manipulate over here will manipulate the x value, because the x value is equals to I hat plus j hat, which means this is I hat and this is j hat. And so we can just if we manipulate these numbers over here, our x value will also be manipulated. So that's why if we increase this one to 2, the x value also increases by 2. Same for this one. And so that's all